Hello, hello. Y'all let me know how the audio's going. We have Steve Falconer backstage right now, Spacebusters. And he has already warned me that he has a lot of material. And we have already agreed to doing a second, maybe even the third video. Get through it all. Glad you guys could join me. This is not a typical Archaix video. You guys know 11 a.m. is pretty early for my community. It probably surprised a lot of people. But you also know that by this time tomorrow, a whole lot of others will have watched this presentation. So keep the chat clean. Thank you, moderators. And without further ado, let's let Steve in. How you doing, bud?
Yeah, Jason, great to catch up, man. Thank you for the invite from you and Big John, who reached out, and your community. Apparently, I was requested, so it's good to know. I know both of our communities have a lot of crossover, and it's funny. You don't remember, but I reached out to you back in it was like October of 2022, and then we were going to get together and do this, but I started going another thing with a germ movie. And the reason I had reached out to you is because in 2019, Ross, there's the guy who actually started Spacebusters. We did a 6-part series called Comets, Cataclysms, Coincidence, where we were looking into what people were calling the reset, the mud flood, and then I was looking at like, well, there's always these comet appearances in the sky. Now, I had never heard of you. So during that series, Ross and I pulled up at least 40 or 50 antique world maps from different periods of time. We were trying to find when did this mud flood happen? And we were scratching our heads because the maps kept changing. Like we were like, well, is it 1760 or is it 1625, 26? Like we kept seeing two possible changes, but we only thought there was one reset. So it was later, a few years later, after COVID stopped, where I saw your work and your 138 cycle. And then I took your 1902 and went back 138 and 138. And when did you fall on 1626 and 1764?
Yeah, we have Steve, there are huge differences, like on maps of North America when the Portuguese, the Dutch, and the Spanish the cartographers had done a really good job. So they knew what the interior of the United States looked like. And before them, the Goths under King Magnus had mapped North America as well. They left the Kensington runestone. So to answer your question, I saw that in the 1570s, 1580s, 1590s, all the maps are pretty much standardized. But come 1626, every map looks totally different for North America. Like something major had happened, but there was nobody here. There was a very few Spanish missions and outposts, but huge geographical areas, inner seas drained out, new Great Lakes appeared. California is no longer an island. It's not the interior of California drained out. Man, it's just crazy the differences that happened around 1626, which is a Phoenix deal. But we had more subsidence, upheaval, and earthquake activity in 1764, which was also another Phoenix year. So it's those two times you isolated are good.
Yeah, man, and it wasn't the United States. We found giant lakes in Africa disappear. Like we found them all over the place.
Did you find the one in South America? There was a huge body of water in the center of South America that drained out as well. It's on maps.
Yeah, and on the Montes 1490, the Montes planisphere, it's 1490 or 80. The Panama Canal is there. It's on the Montes map. We're told they dug out the Panama Canal in 18 whatever. That thing was there already, so they re-dug it out. They didn't build it; they dug it out.
I'm 100% on board because the Heliolithic Maritime Empire was mapping the world recently when there was no ice in Antarctica, and I had recently told my community, I said, "Hey guys, the math doesn't add up because the Lost Squadron that had to do an emergency landing in Greenland in 1942, when they were finally discovered." In 1992, 50 years had passed. And in that 50 years, they were 268 feet below the ice cap in Greenland. So if we apply that arithmetic, which is 5.36 inches of snowfall a year to include on this ice pack, then that means Greenland and by extension Antarctica and both poles had no ice in the Dark Ages at all, which explains all the Dark Age dated maps that we have that show Antarctica, Greenland, Iceland, and these Baffin Island, and show all these places with no ice on them whatsoever. In fact, I'm pretty sure you're aware of a map from 1580s that shows the entire disk of Antarctica populated with reptiles, creatures, giants, people. It's a map from the 1580s.
That's the Monte Planisphere. Yeah, that's the one I'm talking about. It's got the islands, it's got the creatures. I actually did a film on that. So what's great, because and I'm going to get into this. I saw, I'm going to hip you into the Irish Gaeilge, the original language that became Hebrew, and then became Chaldean Arabic. And this is the master key that everyone is missing, because they killed everyone who could speak Irish Gaeilge, not Gaelic, Gaeilge, the original language, Naga. And only 2% of the surviving Irish can speak it. And on the Isle of Man, which is the one enclave no one talks about, we all hear about the Vatican, Washington, D.C., and London City, right? There's a place called the Isle of Man between Northern Ireland and England.
Wasn't that the center of Druid colleges?
This is what I'm going to get into, right? Yeah, so they still speak a language called Manx or Manx. You might even have some subs from there, which is a mix of Gaelic and Gaeilge. And just by synchronicity fluke, I just was gigging this weekend at an Irish pub. I met a girl and a guy, and her dad is the last guy in Ireland who writes songs in Gaeilge, Old Irish, not Gaelic. So we started having these conversations, and they're like, how do you know this? And I had the same. I used to know a girl at the same pub who worked there who was one of the last 2% who could speak it. Because we talk about the Bible, I'm going to show you the Bible is Irish, Druidic in origin. I'm going to prove it to you hands down.
So I haven't delved into this. This is a really good topic, Steve, because it is on my reading list to go through Connor. Oh, what's his name? Connor
McDowry's Jr. and Senior, Commons Beaumont, Anna Wilkes.
I have all their books. I ordered them with my Fomenko books. Because I have every intention of going through every alternative theory and seeing how they fit the overall chronology of the world. And if I have to make some amendments, I'm not worried about years being wrong. I'm worried about we've been told the wrong thing happened in those years.
This is the problem. And I'm going to show you, the whole Bible is Irish mythology. The names of the people and the places are not names of people and places. They are Irish hybrid words for spiritual and physical meanings. And they have been transplanted, and I'm going to show you how they do it. So everyone's looking in the wrong place. So all the great researchers are looking for this history in places where it never was, and it didn't exist anyway. It's allegory. It's not to say, I'll show you Noah and what that means and his genealogy and where this comes from. It's not to say that there wasn't a great flood, right? But there's no guy called Noah and Shem and Japheth and Ham. I'm going to show you these are allegories and typology. But if I can share my screen. So I'm in Denmark, man. So we have like the greatest Antiquitech and Tartarian stuff. But can I show you some stuff on, I want to show you.
Absolutely. Before you show your screen, let me remove okay. You haven't showed it yet. So you haven't shared it yet.
No.
Okay. So as you're setting up to share your screen, I want to interject here because first of all, we know that Britain, Ireland, Cornwall, Wales, the Isle of Man has the oldest infrastructure in the world. Anybody who has studied Karnak, anybody who has studied Silbury Hill, Glastonbury, and understands the pre-British archaeology that is attached to these areas, how ancient the cromlechs, the dolmens, the menhirs, the table stones. This infrastructure is laid out in ley lines. Underneath Britain is a stone, very sophisticated infrastructure, and it's been there all along, but now it's been buried in it's been modernized. However, we have these super ancient areas that are at least 2,000 years older than any of the biblical books. There is no record of the Old Testament prior to 190 BC. It does not exist. And the New Testament was written right after it. But the Old Testament, Genesis through, people think is ancient. I've got a whole playlist, Dark Scriptures playlist, that shows, look, by all the experts and by the in-textual evidence itself, Genesis through Malachi, the entire Old Testament, was a very new Jewish composition where they rewrote the world and included themselves in events for which they were not participants.
Well, we'll get into that later, because I'm gonna show you some information that might challenge that belief.
That's cool.
I'm saying
That's
the
cool.
reason we believe that is because we've been taught to look in the wrong place at the wrong people at the wrong time. But
Right.
what I want to show you is I want to get back to these two time periods, right? 1626 and 1760. Because I live in Copenhagen. So the city of Copenhagen, Denmark, is a giant destroyed star fort the size of an entire city. I think it's the biggest star fort I've ever seen in my life.
Wow.
If there's a bigger one, then we have two normal star forts in it. But here's what I found crazy just by accident. So I got to share screen, and I have to entire screen, click that. And I apologize for my desktop.
It's okay. My desktop is a mess too, man.
Oh, man, you should see my real desktop. So I started looking at these dates. Now, I did this. I'll just show people. I'm going to open these two together. That and this. I want to put these side by side. So I actually live right next to this giant star fort. Let me throw these side by side and kind of shrink. Yeah. Okay. Can you see that all right?
Absolutely.
Okay.
What is the scale on that?
Well, so this is Copenhagen on the right where I'm at.
Okay.
This is the whole downtown city. You're talking miles across.
Wow.
This star fort is miles across, right?
Yeah.
Now, I found this thing on the left. We've had two major fires here, allegedly. So I found this is Copenhagen in 1728 by Joachim Hassing. The problem is it's upside down. If you see on this, so normally when you draw maps, you put north up, right? But here you see on the left, Castel, that's the star fort in the star fort. It's in the wrong place. So what I did is I flipped this map around, and I have that in there. Hold on. And then it's fucking crazy what happens here. So where's the flipped one? Where are you? Nope. I have a flipped one. That one.
Man, you got
okay. Oh, dude, yeah, sorry. I'm
nice job,
all right.
I like the way you were able to pan through the images like that. I don't know how you did that. I can't do that.
Oh, I just using my mouse to scroll. Yeah. So so this map is supposedly 1728, right? Now you said this. You've got the second disaster at 1764.
Yes.
Okay. So here's Copenhagen now on the right. So you can see the bottom of the star fort where my mouse is on the left. It matches up to what's still there. There's a little bridge down on the left and then 4 spikes sticking out. And on the right, there's a little bridge down at the bottom and 4 spikes. But look how little that water canal is. And look on the left, it's giant. The water canal is 10 times the size.
I see that.
And then when you go around to the right of the, can you see my mouse? I don't know if you can see
that. I do.
Right?
Yeah, we can see it.
Okay, yeah. The only land over there at the very far right spike is this tiny little, it's like it's that thing. Well, on the right, that's just this little thing here. None of this is here. That's all water on this in 1728. In other words, this land came up. And then the star fort on the left went all the way around the city and all that. But what happens on the right here now is that star fort ends here. And I've taken Rebecca Scott into these parks. The remnants of the star fort wall are where my mouse is. and a little behind Rosenslot Castle, and then over here by the Museum of Art. See that?
Wow.
So there's kind of a star fort a little bit, and then you see the Castel, which is supposed to be in it. And again, on here, so what I'm showing you is just the surviving pieces of this. The lakes are still there. So they had these lakes there. So in other words, and then see all this water on the right side? It's an island, it's land. And we have the oldest Antiquitech and the best I've ever seen in my life. Like every time people come to Copenhagen, I show them all our Tartarian shit, so-called. There are none over on this right part that I'm saying is new land. It's all new concrete buildings and all that. Now, here's the joke. So down here in Christiania, right at the bottom of the Star Fort, the story goes that the king called Christian IV, I won't stop sharing yet. The story goes, the King Christian IV at the time, and he was the Danish king from 1596 to 1648. They say that he bankrupted the country by building all this stuff. Like he spent the whole royal treasury building all this shit and turning swampland, basically, they're saying, into what's now called Christian's Hound, named after him in Christiania. But as you can see where I'm pointing, there was no land there. Do you see it was water? Yeah. And now it's Christian's Hound. But he's in the same time where this reset that you're talking about happened. I don't think he built it. I think he dug it out.
Okay. Well, just to clarify, the 138-year periodicity of the Phoenix phenomenon is an event that causes subsidence and upheaval. And it's in 4 orders of magnitude. This is what we've documented. It's very clear. And it's never the whole world. It's only been the whole world 4 times in recorded history. It was terrible. But every other time it's been by orders of magnitude. It's either hemispheric, it's either regional. It could be Eastern Hemisphere, Western Hemisphere. It could be Northern Hemisphere. It could be Southern Hemisphere. But it's never the whole world except for those 4 or 5, total systemic resets. So subsidence and upheaval is what the entire archaeological record shows. All over the world, cities have gone up, come down. Lisbon, Portugal, 1755, 60,000 people ran to safety on a quay, and then all 60,000 of them vanished when the entire quay went underwater. You remember that story?
Yeah, man, that's in Ignatius Donnelly's Atlantis book.
Yeah, well, it's in a lot of old books. Because it's a perfect example of like Port Royal. In Port Royal in the 1700s, had the same thing happen. It's a pirate enclave, and the British were always sending spies in there and stuff. But one day there was an earthquake, and the entire island vibrated, and people literally watched thousands of other people sink into the ground in the vibrations. Buildings sank into the ground. Ships could no longer be held buoyant on the water because the water was vibrating. Ships sank straight into the water because it couldn't hold it up. And then the few survivors who were on solid rock were able to watch everybody in the city and the town just sink like quicksands. And then when the earthquake was over, the ground was solid. So everybody got buried alive.
And we saw that in Christchurch with the earthquake where there were cars like buried in the cement when it was done.
Yeah.
You saw cars that were parked on the road, like half buried in solid
people
cement.
don't realize stone and cement can vibrate because of its crystalline structuring. It can vibrate to the point it liquefies. And that liquefaction, you and I could be standing on a concrete driveway. And if the earthquake it has a certain resonance to it, you and I can sink waist deep into a solid driveway. And when the earthquake is over, we're stuck there. And that driveway is still hard.
Yeah, man. And this is like, the Jehovah's Witnesses with their stories of like falling into the depths of hell and all that shit. This is coming from memories of this stuff. Now I'll show you this too, real quick. Hold on, because this is great. So a lot of people have seen, I don't know if this is the Piri Reese map. I'm going to open these two because I live up here and I work up here. There's a place on, I think it's the Piri Reese map. This map here on the left. See this one? There's this land over here that I have in a red box called Friesland. And it's on all these old maps, and it has 9 major cities on it. and it's right south of the tip of Greenland where I have the arrows. It's just kind of southwest of Iceland, and it's due west of the Faroe Islands where I work, which I'll get into that. And then there's these two little islands I have circled. Can you see where my mouse is?
Yes, I can. I can see them. Yeah.
Right. So somehow on Google Maps and Google Earth on the right, just south of Greenland's tip, just south of Iceland, just west of the Faroes with those two dots is a sunken landmass the size of Ireland in the exact same shape. Look at it. See how it bulges out on the right and then has like a cone on the left, like a reverse letter E. Look at it.
Yeah,
letter E.
I do see that. So
that's Friesland. So where did that go?
Well, you do know that there's a widespread Welsh tradition. It's a very famous Welsh legend about a sunken kingdom out there west of Wales. So that's exactly
and Ireland. Yeah, I think it's this.
Yeah, there it is right there. But subsidence and of people in the 1600s, the Dutch Admiralty and the Crown, the Royal Navy for Britain, both documented that Davis Island was a major stop to resupply for fresh water and for citrus fruits. And the Davis Island had cities, and they were small, but it had a population of 5,000 people. And in the 1600s, after 1626, navigators had to start reporting that Davis Island was no longer there. They were at the exact longitude and latitude coordinates. That island, there wasn't a trace of that island or those 5,000 people. And over and over in the 1500s, 1600s, and 1700s, naval maps had to be redone and redone and redone because so many islands appear and disappear, like the islands underneath the Sargasso Sea. It's really weird what goes on in the Atlantic when navigators find new islands, and there's human artifacts and tombs and skeletons, and they're like encrusted into the coral. And then 5 or 6 days later, other navigators go by and report that there's nothing at that longitude and latitude. Shit just goes up and down.
Yeah, and imagine whatever can send Machu Picchu 12,000 feet in the air from sea level can take down an island the size of Ireland in like a day.
India also has the same problem with its coastal kingdoms. They all disappeared in India too.
Yeah, totally. And I'm also with you, by the way. I do not subscribe to an ice age and a glacial melt and all that. There was a little ice age in the 1700s during the grand solar minimum, 1600s in certain places. I do not subscribe to the ice age theory. I think that's bullshit.
Well, the theory that we've been given is bullshit. But Steve, if we look at the facts, which are real easy, the facts are super easy. We have 5 maps that are 500 years old, roundabout, that show ice-free Antarctica. But we have ice on there today. We have the U.S. Navy fleet, the Lost Squadron, that's 268 feet below the ice cap of Greenland. And if you just do the math with the calculator, you'll figure out real quick that we're in an ice age now, because back in the Dark Ages, there was no ice in this world. And the temperature was very different in the Dark Ages. And what we've been told about the Dark Ages is a total lie. They're calling it the Dark Ages, collapse of literacy. Nothing was being developed going on, but it's because something really terrible had happened to our world. And it took
because you always say, we've gone from horse and buggy to Hadron Collider, which is bullshit thing too, but we've gone from that to what we have now in 200 years. So you have to say, why didn't that happen in 200 years during the Dark Ages? How come it went 600 years of bullshit? Something real bad must happen if you can't get from buggy to Hadron Collider in 200 years.
Even 400 or 500 years. They still didn't do it.
Right.
Yeah, right.
And then, so I work up in this area. I work at a place called the Faroe Islands. I got to show you this too. You're going to love this, right? It's called the Faroe Islands, but it's spelled Faroe.
Yeah.
So one of the things I've seen you mention before, there's no pyramids like in the northern hemisphere. Do you notice that? They're all like down in Egypt and stuff, which we'll get into. That's an Irish colony. But look at this on the Faroe Islands. And I'll just pull this map real quick again. So the Faroe Islands are these little chains here right off between Iceland and Scotland. But do you see, like, you know, where Friesland is, you see how the light blue seems to be a continent underwater?
Yeah, I do.
So it seems like the Faroe Islands are part of that bigger triangle underneath sticking out.
Yeah, they're
Now,
the mountaintops on that pre-existing landmass.
right. So here's the deal. So the Faroe Islands, for starters, has a star fort. These are
Wow.
tiny little islands with there's 50,000 people living on all of the Faroe Islands together. There's nobody
Wow.
there. But this is there, right? And then they have these
Wasn't there
mountains that,
wasn't megalithic architecture found on the Faroe Islands?
yeah, and look at this, right? They claim these are called there's 3 pyramids. These are called the Faroe Island pyramids. Now the story is Irish monks, which we'll get into. It was Irish Druids, but they say they came in the 1600s. Now Faroe Islands, the Faroese they're owned by Denmark, but they have a weird language called Faroese, which is like a mix between Danish and it still has Irish, Gaelga, and Gaelic letters and sounds Scottish. They say that these are not pyramids, but that these are wind-blown mountains into perfect 4-sided geometrical pyramids.
Right. Yeah, that's
These
to
things
me.
dwarf Giza, Jason. These things are 3 times the size of Giza.
Yeah,
And there's another one. Look at this. Now, I'm not saying they are pyramids or not. Here's another one. But like, come on.
if an ancient civilization was terraforming and they wanted to create the illusion of pyramids, then it's the same thing we find in Europe. What is the pyramid they always talk about in the Balkans?
No, it's Bosnia. It's the Bosnian one.
The Bosnian pyramid. Yeah, see,
Yeah,
the Bosnian
huge.
pyramid is a pyramid in shape because somebody actively carved that mountain into straight sides, but it is a mountain.
Yeah.
So, yeah, that's certainly compelling. It's like the ancient Chinese feng shui, the terraforming. They got whole hills.
They were, yeah, they absolutely were, and these were these Irish. I've seen you say we don't know who the Hyksos were, and that's because you don't have the Gaelga language. In Irish, they're called the Hyksos, which means the shepherd kings. These were the Irish druids who went around the whole world. That all these tribes around the world say these red-bearded, white, blue-eyed people came and taught them civilization and all this. These, and I'm not talking about the Irish who live there now. I'm talking about way, way, way back then. These people
this would go into the red-haired mummies of the Egyptian Middle Kingdom and all that, and the locals knew that they were foreign because they called them a Muru, and a Muru means Westerners. It's an admission that we know that you're foreign and that you come from the West. But yeah, the people, the rulers of Egypt were literally called a Muru because it was known they were foreigners, and we know from Velikovsky and many other researchers that the DNA tests have come back conclusive. They are Caucasian. They were redheaded. Whoever these people were that ruled over Egypt for centuries, that were called the Hyksos.
They were the Hyksos, yeah. And later they were the Scythians, which means the arrow people, the people who shoot arrows. So the Gauls are called Gauls because Gaul in Irish means dress. They were civilized. They wore clothes and armor and things like that.
Yeah, the Gauls were very civilized. The Romans were impressed with them. They were a very civilized people.
Yeah, absolutely. So these are the people. Well, I can show you this real quick. I'll just go through some quick slides. And yeah, I didn't really like totally plan this out, but I can show you. So the Hyksos or Hyksos, as you're calling them, the shepherd kings, the seafaring people, they were Irish. The Phoenicians is a church made up bullshit story. They were the Irish Phoenicians, Fin, and that's a word for the sun, an Irish word for the sun. But I'll show you like this is kind of going to be random here, right? And I'll quickly through this. The old Irish Druidic religion, they were called the priests of Jesu Christ, Jesus Christ, which means the spirit embodied into the physical form. And they thought that you had to be here about 1,000 years and then finally have 7 lifetimes where you don't fornicate. This is where our priests get like being celibate.
Right.
But let me just find that slide. Hold on a second. Sorry, I should have put these in order, but
I'm already having aha moments with the Dutch Orland manuscript, the Frisians, Frisland. I'm already putting things together as I'm seeing it.
Friesland, right? Yeah, you got it. Yeah, here you go. Sorry, I'm just gonna. Okay. So the Irish Gnostic priests of Yesa Krios, that's two Irish words. Jesus Christ is not a name. It's Irish combined words. Like there's no name called pillow, soft, sleepy, fluffy. You know what I mean? That's
right.
Like a description. So it's the Son and the descent of spirit into the body of man. So Yesa was not a guy, it was the religion. It was a religion of sun worship combined with the stars and then the spirit coming into physical. So in Irish on the left, you have Yesa, Yes, Hesiod, Hezig, Kriost, Bel, Buell. And then the Catholic Church has turned it into Zeus, Jesus, Christ, Dias, Dias, Baal. Oh, they're demon worshipers, right? Haven't you heard? They worship Baal, the demon, Saint Paul.
All it means is Lord.
It just means the Son and the Lord. Yeah. So I'll get to those, the pyramids, because I know you're a big pyramid guy, right? Hold on. Here we go. Yeah, here's your Tix house. So Egypt is an Irish combined word too. It's not a place. Like in the biblical Egypt is not actually a place. It's a combined Irish word. But it's preserved in the Old Testament because it's lore. So the word Pharaoh is Irish Galga. So Galga comes first, right? Irish comes first, Galga. Then comes Eber or Hebrew, which is the language of the priests of this religion. So the common people spoke Irish or Galga. The priests or druids spoke Hebrew, and then from that comes Chaldean Arabic. So Pharaoh is from far, man, road, the sensual man, and roan, two sexes and sexless spirit. So it's a man who has perfected his solar body. And then when you start looking at these alleged Egyptian pharaohs, right, the dynasties, when you start looking at their names, they're not people. They're names of the body. King Menes, he digs the river Nile. Mene means May, month, monthly. And Newell, Nile, comes from the blood in the body. Potiphar means the bowels, the belly, truth, wisdom, the priest of the sun. Do you see that? Enoch is Anak, a wise sage, enlightened. So the book of Enoch is not a guy. It's a book of these priests. Moses is mouse, saturate, soak, swimming. He parts the Red Sea. And here's your Hyksos, Tixos. That means the upper house, the son, the Magian priest, the spiritual shepherd. So these are these shepherds who invade Egypt. Later, they become what Michael Tessarian calls the Setian Atonists. They're like rogue druids. Now, we've all seen this, right? We always see these Egyptian pictures, and there's black guys, brown guys. Then there's these red guys. And you're like, what's that? Well, even in modern times, a red ochre is sunscreen. It's been used as sunscreen forever in ancient tribes. And in the eastern United States, have you heard of the red ochre people?
Yep, I have.
Yeah, like they've dug up these graves where people were buried with red ochre. So, right. Yeah, we'll get into this. So Rome's supposed to be founded by two twin brothers who float in a basket, just like Moses. And their names are
Romulus and Remus.
Right. Now flip their names backwards. Sulamor and Sumer. Sulamor is Irish for the great light, the sun, and Sumer is summer.
Wow, because that's the same as Hebrew, Suleiman, which comes from the Suleiman for Solomon.
Mm-hmm.
It's crazy.
Hebrew is Irish. Galga is Chaldean Arabic. Somra. There you go. You just said it. Summer, sun. So they tell us that there was no civilization, and then in Sumeria, suddenly, what was it? 5,000 years ago, there's language, writing, arts, law. Right? They tell us just out of nowhere, cavemen come up with this shit.
35th century BC. It all just appeared.
When was it? 36. Yeah.
No, the 35th century BC, which would be 5,500 years ago. Everything just suddenly appeared. But in my own Archaix research, I've showed my community that even the Sumerian texts admit that it all came from somewhere else, and it was all brought to that area of the world by ships.
That's right. Yeah. What happened? Did I stop sharing or something weird's going on here?
No, we can see your screen. We can
Oh,
see the
okay. Yeah. Okay. So, so when the Irish druids of Yesa Criost got east, right? They went around the whole world and taught all this stuff to everybody. They got to Sumeria, and they called it Sumeria because it means summer. It's cold in Ireland, you know, and so they named it like it's always summer here. It's hot. That's why it's called Sumeria. Those tablets are Irish, right? Now the word Syracuse in Irish means eastern or sun. So that's where we get Syracuse in Sicily. Now, the red ochre people, right, in northeastern United States, they're called the Syracuse Indians because they're on the eastern part of the United States.
wow,
The
what a
Irish
connection! What a
named
dot
them
connection! What the hell of a dot
Right.
connection there?
So the reason you always see like red people in these Egyptian steles is because they are the Hyksos. These are the people who came and they didn't rule, like you said. We're told that they conquered them, right? But they didn't. They were advisors. They were spreading civilization. They didn't conquer anybody.
Yeah, they also established the fifth dynasty of Babylon, which is known as the Hammurabi dynasty. It was an invasion, but it was an invasion of scholars. It was an invasion of teachers. Professor Waddell goes into a lot of detail showing that when Menes came and basically founded Egypt, he brought in all the colleges, all the universities, everything in the old world of Syria, Egypt, the Near East, the Euphratean cultures, Hittite Anatolia. Every bit of that came from navigators. They came from fleets of ships from the same culture that the locals were calling a Muru, which was just an admission that they're strangers from the West. And they came in, and I had an aha moment when you were showing me all that. I was like, wait a minute. The whole Atlantean narrative is about Western navigators entering the Mediterranean, and the sea peoples may have just come from Ireland.
They did. Well, Ireland is, and the British Isles are what's left of Atlantis, right? This is them. Yeah, Atlantis is, I followed the Atlantis rabbit hole for a long time. It's these guys. This is the big cover up. See, the Roman Catholic Church and the Church of England killed all of these druids and everything. They wiped this all out. Anyone who spoke Irish was killed. Any Welsh, because the Welsh can speak this language, if they got caught writing hieroglyphics, the Welsh can read hieroglyphics. It's called simmeroglyphics. They cut your hand off if you got caught drawing hieroglyphics. I'll show you, the Welsh can read it. So they tried to kill everyone. So because if once you know these names, as I'll show you later, you can go through Adam, Eve, Noah, all their children. They're not people's names. They're hybrids for a spiritual science. They didn't exist. They didn't. Now, that's not to say that because this was their spiritual science, as they started moving across the world, it's not to say they didn't start naming places after this science, right?
Oh, there's no doubt. Yeah.
So yeah,
that's what we always name places like that.
Well, like you've had Ralph Ellis on, he's great, right? So he's got Jesus of Odessa. He's like the king of Edessa, right? And he's like, that's historical Jesus. Well, the biblical Jesus is not historical. It's them hiding Yesa Crio's spirit into man, and then the man going through 1,000 years of reincarnation until he gets 7 perfected ones without regeneration, where he builds his spiritual solar body and doesn't have to come back here because he's not attached to the lust and the greed and the sex and all the shit that we have fun doing here. And I'll show you that later. But just like almost every Muslim names their first boy Muhammad, you know how many Muhammads there are. So if your kid was going to be the king of Edessa, right? Why wouldn't you name him Yesa? Right? Wouldn't that be a perfect name for like a kid who's going to be king? Not that he's the historical Jesus, but if you were Jewish, which what I'm saying is Hebrews, it's an Irish word. The modern Jews, that's only been around since the 1700s. That doesn't go back past the 1700s. real Judaism, if you want Hebrews, let's call them the biblical Hebrews, that are people who follow the teachings of these priests of Yesa Krios. So it's not like a race of people like the small hats and the big nose and all that. You could be black, white, Chinese. It doesn't matter. Like anyone who followed their teaching was called an Hebrew, a Hebrew.
Right.
And it's an Irish word. Yeah.
I wonder if we can't push that back just a century or so. Just push it back a century or so, because I'm real cognizant of a lot of old literature. But I do have a Bible in my possession. I've showed it to my community. It's from 1664, 2 years before the London fire in 1666. And in that Bible, that it's an old and New Testament, but it does talk about Jews and Hebrews and all that so I'm wondering, I'm not disagreeing that it's invented, because I've already showed my community the entire Jewish calendar is a fiction invented 500 years ago. But I wonder if we can't push back the invention of the Hebrew narrative at least another century or so, because in the 1600s there were books talking about it.
Much further, and I'll actually show you too, because I can show this to you. But so Connor McDara Jr. wrote in his book, The Bible, an Irish book. I sent you back in 2022. I actually sent you Irish Wisdom in the Bible and Pyramids, which is a long book, but he's got a little 70-page book where he just goes through.
You sent me the PDF, right?
Yeah. But he's got another 70-page book where he just goes through the Torah only and shows this. But oh shit, now I just lost my train of thought. Oh crap, I lost my train of thought. I'll just show you. Let me just show you. Hold on. Let me present again. Sorry, I'm jumping all over screen share, but
no, it's all right. I mean, I plan on reading these books and going through them meticulously, because that's just who I am. But I'm getting it from you straight first, so to soften me up before I start going on this rabbit hole.
Yeah, and I just want to go. I'll just kick through some of my slides here. Okay, here we go. So the Hebrew Jews, as I'm saying, were the Irish priests of the fire sun Yesa. So Gaeliga, not Gaelic. Gaeliga was the commoner language. Hebrew was a special language for the priests, just like the Roman Catholic priests have Latin, right? No one else could speak it. So Eber comes from the Irish Ea, meaning fire in the sun. What is Enki's name? Enlil Enki, the Sumerian bullshit story. His name's Ea.
Yeah, his name is Ea.
He's the sun. So there's no people called Enlil, Enki, that these are also Irish names. The Sumerian tablets, I'll show you later, they planted them. And then the Phoenicians comes from the Irish word Fion or Fin, meaning the sun. They were the Phoenicians and they were seafarers. So the word Yud or Yud in Irish means the day, the light, followers of the light. There is no J in the Irish language. And right. I think J in English got added, what, in the 1700s?
1600s, I believe.
16. Yeah, there wasn't even a J in English.
It was always an I. And that's why old coins have that I before the date, so people reading the date would know if it was Gregorian dating or Julian dating. But instead of a J for Julian, they put an I on the old coins.
Oh, that makes sense. Yeah, because they're on the church and the map. So if you saw an I or a J, you'd know if it was older than 1500, then, right?
Yes, absolutely.
Right, that makes sense, man. And then so that's where we've been given the word Jew, but these were just people who followed these priests. And then the word Yule, which is Danish, I speak Danish. That means Christmas, which is Jesus's birthday, the sun. That means the highest power, dignity of the sun, learning and knowledge, which is where we get July and the fictional character, Julius Caesar, who's not a real person. He's an allegory as well. A lot of the Roman history is totally fabricated by monks and priests. But I'll show you some other slides real quick, and then I want to show you the language. Sorry, man, this is all crazy.
It was a waste because it's such a huge book, and I spent a lot of time studying it before I realized it's all BS. Like Geoffrey of Monmouth's Historia Regum Britanniae. I was so pissed off at all.
Yeah. Well, that's the thing, man. Like, I fucking love your channel and all those books you have, but I question if a lot of the stuff in those books behind you are not also them. Well, that's how they used to brainwash you before television.
In my defense, before I produce material for my channel, I've already looked at it from multiple different vantage points, and I make sure that it's verifiable by a calculator. But I've also already eliminated about 90% of the bullshit that I know is crap, total crap. So by the time it appears on my channel, it's already gone through multiple filters, and my channel has a lot of fact checkers because there's always people trying to trip me up.
Yeah, I love it, man. You get attacked, which means I love that because you don't get, you don't catch flack unless you're right over the target, as they say. So, but I'm just showing you. So, like, these are the names of the Irish sun gods, which is just the sun personified. In Irish, it's Cuchulainn. And then in the Mayan, it's Kukulkan, same word.
Wow.
In Irish, another name is Telak, and it's Tlaloc in Mexico.
I've read all. I thought it was pronounced Cuchulainn. I've got whole books on Cuchulainn. During the days of the Tuatha De Danann, the Great Wars, the battle in the Field of Towers, Magchura. Yeah, so that is right. Cuchulainn is Kukulkan. That would be the same god.
Same god, Cuchulainn, Kukulkan. Yeah,
wow.
And down here, Chacmul became Chacmul in Mexico. And Connor McDorough's got, dozens of others. But I'll just show you the language real quick, too. Sorry, I'm just kind of jumping around.
Dude, you're literally empowering my theory on the Heliolithic Maritime Empire. All you're doing right now, you don't know all the data points I have on this. But if you did, you are literally giving me the origin of a culture that literally colonized the entire world and provided the substrate for most of the religions of the world, is responsible for most of the architecture distributed all over the world. And I've never pinpointed their origin. All I've ever called them on my channel and in my books is the Heliolithic Maritime Empire. But you're literally showing me that it was the British Isles. It was Ireland.
That's why all my subs keep saying, you need to talk to Jason at Archaix because he needs this information. So what's the Great Pyramid of Giza called? Cheops, right?
That's the king, they say. Yeah, that's the king. They
say he's the king who made it, right? That represents the spirit in the purified or regenerated man, meaning the guy who went 1,000 years of incarnation and made 7 times without sexual and desire. Now, the word spirit in Irish on the left is spoech. Can you see that? Spoehc?
Yeah.
Now spell that backwards. What's that backwards?
Golly, man. So stop right. Hey, Steve, stop right there. I have explained to my community over and over that during the Heliolithic Maritime Empire, a lot of different legends and traditions for different cultures are the exact same thing. And the reason is because whatever the invading culture, whenever they came into contact with Egypt, whoever they were, they wrote from left to right, while the Egyptians wrote from right to left. And this is why the Egyptian Noph became Fiend. The Noph is Phoenix. This is why the Egyptian goddess Neith to the invaders became Athene. And over, this is why the Sumerian king, or maybe Irish king, Anum, who founded ancient Egypt, was later called Mina, which was the Greeks' turn to means. But it is a folding from right to left, like the mirror image of a word. And I explained to my community over and over that whoever these people are, they were Caucasians. They were the Heliolithic Maritime Empire. They were civilization builders, and every ancient culture respected or feared them. But they laid the infrastructure out multiple times after resets. And the confusion has always been because whoever these invaders are that became civilization founders, they always wrote in the opposite direction of the people they were invading.
Yeah, man. And it's these guys. So like Kukulkan, right? All those sun gods with Khan. Khan is an old Irish Gaelic word for a king, or the sun, the king, right? Have you ever heard the stories that Genghis Khan was blue-eyed with a red hair and beard?
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. It was a small group of very large Caucasians that literally unified the Tartar clans together, and the first agenda was to invade China. After that, they started taking over Russia and the rest of Europe.
Right, yeah. So, and we all say, well, how the hell could Genghis Khan be a white guy with red hair and blue eyes? Well, if he's an Irish priest of Yesa Krios, a Tixhouse or a Hyksos, right? Or maybe a Scythian later. Now, here's a joke. Here's the Egyptian god, Khan, right? He's the god of the moon. Look at his head. It's an American falcon that has never, ever been found in Egypt or indigenous to it. What the hell is an Egyptian god doing with an American head, American falcon head?
That is
It's a
really
very
good,
unique bird.
that is a very interesting deal. You know, cocaine and coffee beans have been found in Egyptian tombs as well.
Right. And from South America. Right. So how'd they get there?
Exactly.
Now, here's another joke, too. This is, I went to Southern Illinois University for 1 year. I failed out. I drank myself out. This is not a Saluki. I looked this dog up for a long time to see. The Egyptian god Anubis is actually a pharaoh hound. It's a very special dog with that long snout and those pointy ears. And it was imported to Malta, they say 2,000 years ago. They've never found one in Egypt. Now, the Knights of Malta are there. That's the Knights Templar, who are these Setianatnis. So what is that doing on an Egyptian god? And of course, the Egyptian gods.
Really
So the Welsh can read hieroglyphics. That's why they used to cut their hands off. The biggest false flag in the history of the world, I think, besides the shape of the earth, was the Rosetta Stone. Suddenly they find this stone that's got 3 languages that can translate hieroglyphs into this letter and into this. But see, there's no guy called Ptolemy. Those hieroglyphs are not letters. The Welsh can read this. They are words. That's not a P. That means door, port, porth, the supreme one. T means cake, Titian, you, successor, abundance. See that? The Welsh know this, that is not a name of a guy. It's a spiritual attribute from the science that I'm telling you about. Welsh is basically also Old Gaeilge. And I'll just show you real quick. I'll show people. This is from, I think, Anna Wilkes, Ireland, Ur of Chaldee. Can you see that all right?
Yep, I can see it.
Yeah, tell me if it's not big enough, because I know people are like, blow it up, man. Here we go.
You can blow it up a little bit, yeah.
Yeah. So in English, we get the word father. In Old Irish, we get Abba. In Chaldean Arabic, it's Abba. And you can see the writing, right? That is almost identical to the Hebrew Ab. So Irish becomes Hebrew, the priest language, which becomes later Chaldean Arabic. Mother, am, Abu. See that? And these books have hundreds of these. I just took one page just to show people, so it's proof, par none, that these are the same languages. And I wanted to show one more thing on that, and can't remember what. Anyway, I'll shut that. What was it? Oh, yeah. So same thing. People are in church saying Amen to Amun Ra, and that's Welsh, Awen. So this is all Druidic. The weird thing is, the Irish and the Welsh and the Manx, they know this. This guy wrote me a letter. This is an Irish guy. He said, I've done a great deal of research on the origins of our civilization, and most roads lead to Ireland and what we now call the Irish people, and as Gaeilge, or the Irish language. You mentioned the rarity, right? So this kid, he knows it. He's like, I think you've been reading Connor McDara, Anna Wilkes, Bob Quinn. And I'm like, yeah. And the thing is, even David Ewing Jr., I'll just stop sharing. All the great researchers out there. Oh, shit. Where did you go? Oh, here we go.
You disappeared.
All the great researchers out there, nobody can speak Irish because it's a dead language almost, right? And if these last 2% of people die, we lose the key. You can decipher the whole Bible with the Irish language. And we have to really keep these people, because none of David Ewing Jr. speaks 7 languages, including modern Hebrew and Arabic. Oh, that's what I was going to show you. All right, this is going to trip you out, right? So the Tartaria people are going to love this. Now I remember. Sorry. I should have really I should have planned this out more. So the Quran, what's your take on the Quran?
Well, I have a Quran. I have a Quran from 1801 or 1824. I don't know why I got 1801. I have an actual Quran, but it doesn't have any. It doesn't have any surah divisions. And I've had some Muslims contact me when I said this on YouTube out loud. They didn't believe me, and because they said the Quran has never been altered, it's never been changed, it's always been the exact same format. And I'm saying no, it hasn't. I have a copy from the early 1800s, and it's a hardback copy. It's on my shelf. And I opened it up and I took pictures, and it blew their mind. There's no surah divisions. It's solid text through and through from the end of the book to the beginning of the book, and you can't see one verse from another. It's solid text. So
right,
I don't think
the Quran's older than 200 years old. I think it's 200 years old.
Yeah. Well, it have to be a little older than that, because the copy I have from the early 1800s is like almost 300 years old now.
Well, okay, yeah, that's what I mean. Yeah, I mean, 18th century. Now,
yeah, it's a real subject of controversy about just how old the Quran really is. So
yeah, and you know this. So the oldest Quran we have, right? It's now in Ethiopia. It's being held in Ethiopia. Do you know where they found it?
No.
St. Petersburg, Russia.
Yeah.
Do you know where they found the second oldest copy of the Quran? St. Petersburg, Russia. Wow. Here's the helmet of cap of Archaix. He was the Tsar Alexei Mikhailovich of Russia. He was a Christian Tsar. Look what's on his helmet. Arabic, Chaldean Arabic, Irish Gelga.
Is it possible? I mean, I'm just playing devil's advocate.
Yeah.
When Islam was making inroads towards Byzantium, which was later called Constantinople, during this period it was called Constantinople. There were 2 times that Russian armies, back then they were called the Rus, and they were considered a cousins of the Vikings, and they invaded south all the way to Constantinople, and they put Constantinople in check twice. And that was the seat of Russia has always bucked the system. They have always gone against the rest of the world all throughout history. But could it be that that's a trophy that was taken all the way up to back to Russia? I don't know. I just know that there's 2 invasions of the Russians during that period of time. And they sacked the city of Constantinople, and it sent shockwaves throughout the civilized world, because
very possible, man. But it's weird that a Christian king would be wearing that.
Yeah, I get it.
Now here's some old paintings of saints. That's Christianity, right? That's not Islam. They don't draw gold sun discs around their head. Arabic, right. Chaldean Arabic, backwards, right around their halo.
Man, that's compelling there. That is because. That's compelling there, because why would Islam, why would Arab, I mean, it would be Christian Arabic, but I don't know.
Right. And they found millions, or not millions, hundreds of thousands of gold coins all around Europe with Arabic written on them. And they say, oh yeah, the Templars looted them, right? Now that whole nice Templar story is bullshit too.
Yeah. One thing I'm going to disagree with the Tartaria guys is that 600 years of Ottoman Turks is where they're mistaking this whole Tartaria deal. It's one and the same. They try to separate Tartaria from the Turks, but the truth is, as I've shown on my channel, in the Tartaria, in the books on Tartaria, I show actual pages from old books where Tartaria enters the historical record in the year 1212, and the very first founding member of the Ottoman Turkish Muslim Empire, his name on the king list is Uthman the Tartarian. There is no difference between the Turks and the Tartarians. In 600 years of rule, most of it enslaving Caucasians in Europe. That's what the Turks did. They had massive slave campaigns going, and they owned half of Europe. And women, men, boys, and girls were sold in the markets of the Mediterranean, and then white people were distributed like coinage. Most people don't know this, but for over 600 years, the white race, except for basically Denmark, Sweden, parts of Germany, the north of the Rhine, those people remain free. But France, But France, Gaul, Italy, yeah, the Visigoths, man, totally enslaved, and it was a networking between the Mediterranean Jews and the Muslims, and they worked it out with the Turks. And most people don't know, for 600 years, white people were sold as sex slaves and galley slaves to row ships and all that. And this is how they spent their lives. And also, I don't want to get into too dark here, but there are some Mediterranean cultures that even put white people on the menu.
Oh yeah, yeah. Do you know the old the first name for Beijing was called Tartar City, and they had a moat and a wall around it where you like the Asian looking people weren't even allowed in. It was totally the Tartars, and this is part of what now the Tartars on that Montes is it in 1480 or 50 the planisphere we're talking about where all the lands are around. It talks about the Tartars in there, and it says they were nomadic people.
Right.
So they were tent livers. So when we're calling all these buildings Tartarian, I don't think that's correct.
I don't either.
Because the Tartars were tent people, like you're saying. I think the American Indians and like these kind of people are probably really the Tartars.
Yeah.
And it's also the same, like, so, you know, the Florida Seminole Indians, right? They call them the ancient Hebrews.
Hold on. Seminoles, Florida, right?
Yeah, Florida. Yeah, the Florida Seminole Indians, when they found them, they were calling them the Hebrews of America because they spoke a very ancient form of Hebrew, and they were wearing their hair. They were curling their hair on purpose in like Jew locks, like these Hyksos who came, like these Irish curly-haired people who came. They were still speaking ancient Hebrew or Chaldean Arabic, if you want to call it. It was a weird form. And it's Connor, and then the modern historians say, no, they speak these other two languages. And Connor McDowry said, yeah, both those are Irish words too, like they're Irish languages. I'll show you a good one, the Sioux, right? So, and I apologize to like my subs have probably seen me do this before, so sorry, but I think this is hopefully news to you, and I hope your subs are getting like a holy shit moment here.
Oh yeah, I've been paying attention to the chat, man. This is well received.
Oh, great. Oh, that's good to know, man. I hope I'm not boring everyone, but because my people have seen this. But so when they got to I know they're in here somewhere. Where are you? I know it's in here. Hold on. There. So that's the other thing. There's all these old statues in Egypt, Sumer, where like the pharaohs have blue eyes and long beards.
Right.
But like Egyptian people don't look like that. So these are these Hyksos. They also have in Ireland all over, there's still 70 of these stone towers erected, like observatories. They're like a very special stone tower. Yeah. And there's 150 of them all over. Right. There's 150 of those over India. But India has never been known as a seafaring country, right? That went anywhere and conquered anyone.
Did have an Aryan invasion.
Right. Yeah. The only way those towers could be there is if the Irish brought it that way.
Well, but there's a link between India and Ireland that you haven't mentioned about those towers.
Let's hear it. Yes, tell me.
Okay. Well, we have on record that in the 6th century, during the Great Justinian Darkness period, which started the Dark Ages, massive earthquakes were being experienced worldwide. And we have it documented in the literature of the time that at least 450 of the round towers of Ireland collapsed at this period. These round towers are very unique. They have high resonance features. They're so perfectly made. They've only been found in Ireland. They have been found in northern India, but there's one other location that bridges the two where these towers were found everywhere, and that is Sardinia.
Right.
So all of them are accessible to the sea peoples.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. It would be the sea people. Right. Yeah. Because when you look at a lot of the old biblical stories, half the shit, this is all maritime. This is where we get, okay, like, the black nobility, right? The Phoenicians that we're told about, which is a lie.
Right.
We're told that these Phoenicians came from the east and then settled the swamplands, right? They made the black nobility empire, but they were Irish Phoenicians who went rogue. So these are Scythians and Hyksos who went rogue. I'm not sticking up for the Druidic religion. because for me, any religion that says you need a master to teach you the secrets, right? Like Freemasonry now, Irish PHRE masonry has become Freemasonry.
Right.
Oh, you need a guru, or you need, it's all within yourself. That's real gnosis. So it's very easy to see like how you can get a bullshit control mechanism going on where you say, oh, we have the secrets and we're your priest. This is where the priest class come. And this is who these Setianatnas are, as Michael Tsarian talks a lot about. They went rogue. They were helping all the Roman emperors and the Egyptians and all that. And they power tripped. But back to this. So
I think it's really before you go on, I just want to interject. I think it's very compelling that I've never really done a whole lot of crossover with Michael Tsarian or you. I haven't really gone through the Connor McDarry material and stuff, but I find it so compelling that it was my community. It was my community that noticed, damn, all these things Jason's talking about, these foreign Caucasians that came over here, and all the words that the locals called them that identified them as Caucasians, all the statuary, all the racial portraits on the walls of Karnak, everything Jason is saying is the same thing you guys are talking about, but I'm doing it from the perspective of those cultures and not from the Irish perspective.
Right.
So we're literally talking about the same thing.
We are totally, and that's what I'm showing you is the Roman Catholic Church and Church of England and their monks, and also the Knights Templar. We're told the Knights Templar were fighters and bankers, but they weren't. They had a clerical order called the Cistercians. You know about all that. There were the fighting knights, and then there were the Cistercians who were doing all the banking. That's the Knights Templar banking. They have been rewriting our history, and I'm going to show you pictures that they've been building bullshit in Egypt that we think they are ancient temples. I've got pictures of them 1880. They're not there.
This is the same time period as like the Knights Hospitallers.
The Knights Hospitallers become the Templars, yeah, but I'm going to show you, since the so-called bullshit Renaissance, I don't know what you think about the Renaissance, it's bullshit. They have been building fake shit to transplant fake history over to the Middle East where it never was. And they've made huge tourism. You've seen it over and over when David Ewing Jr. goes into this. He went every time. These people have allegedly been living in an area for like 2,000 years and they don't find anything. And then like some English Freemason goes on a 2-week vacation. He's studied the language at Oxford somehow. And 2 weeks later, he's like, look what I found. And you're like, what? Nobody found this shit for 2,000 years and you found it in 2 weeks? Right? It was the same way.
Yeah, it's crazy. It's the same in 1837 when this idiot named Weiss was running out of money, and suddenly he finds Egyptian cartouche in there that everybody missed for hundreds of years. No one saw it for hundreds of years, and all of a sudden he finds it. Man, come on, man.
Right. And it was what's his name? The council in Nicaea. That's not Charlemagne. Is it Charlemagne? No, it's what's his name? The council in Nicaea.
Charlemagne was 800. He was the
who's the Nicaea guy? The Roman emperor who moved Constantine. Constantine
the Great.
Right. So his dad was a Christian, and then his mom became Christian. There were 2 emperors of Rome back then, and he was in the British Isles, and then he converts to Christianity. Then he sends his mom, Helen, who's Saint Helen now, to what we're calling modern day Jerusalem, right? With two monks. And within a week, she finds Jesus's cross on a mountain in Jerusalem. Nobody's ever found it. Like in 2 weeks, you're like, well, that was lucky. It's like, it's all of history is just these ridiculous stories where like, nobody found this but you. I question the Dead Sea Scrolls. Nobody went into that cave. Like, it wasn't very far, you know what I mean? So yeah, I'm looking at history like I don't believe a word. But let me just get back to the Sioux real quick, and then we'll go to that topic. But so when they found the Sioux Indians, a lot of them had blue eyes and blonde hair, and they were really perplexed because these Sioux, which is Sersha, remember I told you the Irish word? That's Sersha. They were living in stone, like what do you call them? Cob huts, out of stone and brick and mud, like Irish.
Right.
They were living in cob houses that they only live in the British Isles, but they're sitting in the middle of the United States. and all the other Indians are living in teepees and, you know, that kind of shit. And they're like, what? Well, where did this come from? And why do you have blonde hair and blue eyes when all the rest of the Native Americans don't?
So William Corliss of the Sourcebook Project has published some amazing things, and one of his books is huge, called Handbook of Puzzling Artifacts. And in the back of that book, he goes into detail how the Mandan Indians of North America, their language has been studied. They have blonde hair. Some of them have red hair. They have green and blue eyes. They are absolutely Caucasoid. And their language in the 1800s had been studied by specialists, and they say that this must be a lost colony of the Welsh. So this is
right.
This guy's a scientist, and he pulls from all the scientific literature of the time. But his name is William Corliss of the Sourcebook Project, and I have all the volumes of his work, and I'm always showing his material to my community. But when I saw the Mandan Indians right there, I just thought you might want to know that the scientific analysis of the 19th century was that they were a lost colony of the Welsh.
Right, and I wouldn't say they were lost Welsh. I would say because Welsh, their language is still one of the closest to Irish Gaeilge. It's mutated as everything does. So the Isle of Man, they have Manx, which is Gaelic and Gaeilge. Welsh is like a mutated form of Gaeilge. And the new president of Ireland, this woman, she speaks Irish. She speaks Gaeilge. I just saw a video of her speaking in Gaeilge, which is crazy. But there's not many people, and this is why the church tried to kill everybody. And it's, you know, if we get to, I don't think we're gonna have time to do this, but I would like to do a show with you where I show you it's not the Jews and the tiny hats. Like, this is a biggest psyop, and it's because we're missing this knowledge. Now, these were the original Jews. Original Judaism is Druidism. So is Christianity. It's sun and star worship. A Jew, a Yud, or a Eber is somebody who follows the teachings of the Druids of Yesa Kriost. And it's all in the stars in the sky. I can also show you too what that.
So by this position, you would be holding the position that those who say that they are Jews today are not. They're imposters.
I'm saying that modern Judaism, it needs to be separated. There's a nuance here from real or original Judaism. Okay. And Zionism, I'm going to show you if we have time. Zion is a Druidic word, Sion, for the stars, the heaven, the sun. It is not Jewish. Neither is the Star of David is not Jewish at all. And I can show you that. So what's been going on is these Setianatanists have been giving these Islam religions, modern Judaism, they've been planting these bullshit religions into all these stupid people to get them believing shit that's going to further a farther narrative. And they always have held Hofjude. I've got a document I found in the Georgetown Jesuit Library about the banking in England in the year 1000 to like 150. So during chivalry, that's Jews were third-class citizens.
That's the Domesday.
Yeah, they were under they were under women. This is a legal document from a lawyer. So it basically, like, what was happening is the Jews, because they could do usury, because, you know, chivalry was there in Christianity, no one else could loan money at interest, and the Jews weren't allowed to own property. They couldn't have jobs. They were like literally like dogs, but they could loan money because their religion let them do it. So they became the bankers, and they were holding separate ledgers. This document's like 30 pages, goes into all of it. But what no one knows is they were letting the Jews do this because, like, if somebody wanted to go off to the Crusades, right, they had to like get a loan to do it, and they bring it back, but the king couldn't do it. But then what the king did is he just stole all the Jews' money that they made off the usury and then kicked them out. So the king was letting them do the dirty work and then robbing them and then threw them all out of the country.
I've talked a lot about these intrigues and how the Crusades were actually financed by Jewish loans, just like the entire Civil War. So just a question, since I know we're going to be talking about them, but just one question: who are these bastards running Hollywood, and who are these bastards that are running the world Rothschild banking dynasties? Are we talking about?
I'll show you. Yeah,
imposters, or are we talking about real Jews?
They are Setianatanists. marry into Jewish families and pretend to be Jewish. They marry
Okay.
into Christian families and pretend. Now, if you look, I've looked for a real source. You know, you can go to Eric John Phelps. I've looked into as many sources as I can, and the answers are varied. But basically, anywhere from 1 out of 12 Zionists to 1 out of 30 are Jewish. Meaning 99% of Zionists are not Jewish.
Yeah.
So to call it a Jewish conspiracy, we call them tiny hats. That's the Pope's hat. He's the red papacy. He's a Setian Atonist.
The
So
Vatican treasury door has the royal seal of Rothschild on it.
You know it, yeah. And the Rothschilds have the arrows, which is the Egyptian goddess you talked about. But yeah, we can get into that. But so there are Jews in this set. I'll show you who they are here. I'll just show you who's who. I'll just show you right now who's who.
Well, one's personal ethnicity doesn't even concern me, but I know we have a World Jewish Congress, and they run shit. They've started the World Wars, World War I, World War II, the Balkans Wars in the 1800s. They were heavily involved in that. So their actual ethnicity isn't too much of a concern. It's their activity. They definitely work together, whoever they are.
Yeah, and I'm not saying that there aren't Jews. I'm not saying there aren't Jews in the Setian Atonist movement. Like, they are definitely there. And I even did. Oh, here we go. I'll have to pull. I'll just get into this real quick because I started doing some digging myself on this. Right.
They certainly run the show.
Well, let's just talk about the United States since you're there. So everyone thinks Donald Trump, it's Trump. So there's a thing called the United States Congressional Committee. And they are the ones who handle all the actual specific duty, like legislator, laws, monitoring operations, where the money goes, the budget, right? Yeah. So Woodrow Wilson said, "It is not far from the truth to say that Congress in session is Congress on public exhibition, while Congress in its committee room, which is this, is Congress at work." In other words, they make all the laws. It's them. So I went into all of the congressional oversight committees, all of them. I went into them all and I said, all right, where's all these Jews, right? They got to be. Because one of the biggest myths you hear is America is Israel's bitch. Donald Trump is Netanyahu's bitch. That's not true. The Jesuits started Israel. It's a Jesuit colony, and the Knights Templar run the right in America, and then the Jesuits run the left. And where is this freaking spreadsheet? Oh, here we go. I wasn't planning on opening this. Let's see if it does. So I went in and said, who's running all these congressional oversight committees, right? Where's the Jews? And I even went into how many there were. I didn't find a single Jew running one or in them. Every one of them were Baptists, Zionists, but Christians, Zionist, Presbyterian, Roman Catholic, Jesuit. There's not a Jew on the whole thing.
Have you done a study on all the senators and congressmen in the United States that have dual Israeli citizenship?
They get it, yeah, because that is the Jesuit connection. They all get it. It's the Templar connection. Right now, there's 10 Jewish senators out of 100. Well, that was 2025. And then I looked, well, how many went back? 36 Jewish ones since 1845. Right now, there's 25 Jews in the House of Representatives out of 435.
Yeah.
So the United States is not Israel's bitch. There is an overarching control faction that controls both and is telling the United States to move money to Israel because they want to take over the Middle East again for the One Belt, One Road initiative. They want the Ben Gurion Canal built in there because navies run the world, right? So They want to be able to move the goods for the One Belt, One Road initiative, which is being run by Henry Breakspear out of Macau, China. And people aren't really seeing the bigger picture. They've always put a Huff Judah in front. They like to put the Jews in front. Jordan Maxwell said the same. He said, I don't think it's the Jews, but what do I know? I only studied this for 50 years, And David Icke even came out and said, the people really running Israel, I've got 50 minutes of videos of Zionist, Orthodox Jews out protesting, saying Zionism is not Judaism, and it's not. Zionism is Setian Atenist Druidism. So I'll show you who they are, and I can show you even their. Am I sharing screen still or what?
Yeah, you're still sharing it.
Oh, sorry. Yeah, okay. And this is from you've had Michael Tassarian on, haven't you?
No, I've been on Enslaved, but he hasn't been on Archaix. I would love for him to come on Archaix. I don't know if Big John emailed him or not. I believe I gave John his him. I would like to have him and David White. David Whitehead's been on.
Right.
I'd like to have both of them come on again, or do what? Well, like I said, I've been on Michael's channel, but he hasn't been on mine.
Yeah, I'd love to see you guys get together. So this all goes back to Akhenaten. So basically, like these Pharisees we're reading about in like biblical stories, which I'll show you aren't true, but this was happening. These are like the priests. So it's the Aaronites, the Oralites, the Levites, Order of Melchizedek, Zadokites, Benjamites, the Gaonim, Princes of Light, Eastern Illuminati, or they call them the Fourth Sect, Order of Sion, Knights Templar, Knights Hospitaller, Knights of Malta, Rhodes, the Cistercians, who are the Knights Templars bankers. So that's really the Knights of Malta now. Modern Freemasons, these are the new ones now. Rosicrucians, Lodge Theodore, Knights Beneficent, Order of St. Michael George, Order of the Garter, and the Black Nobility. Now, the Black Nobility Phoenicians, these people are called the Cult of Venus. If I were to give this an overarching name, they worship Venus, the morning star and the night star, and Venus is Lucifer. It's not a being. It's not a guy who fell out of heaven. Venus is Lucifer. And this is, I'm sorry, like I don't want to sound like misogynist, but this is actually a female-run cult behind the scenes, and it's a lot for people to swallow, but it is true.
Well,
the Freemasons,
as things have been run for the past 300 or 400 years, I would probably welcome a female cult.
Well, you're starting to see them put more and more females in power now, aren't you? You're starting to see like Ursula von der, whatever fucking Nazi in charge of the EU, you know, they're putting their females in now. But do you notice like the Red Papacy, that's one branch of the Setianatonists. Do you notice like they always dress like women? The bishops and priests and popes, they're dressed in dresses. And the Freemasons are wearing aprons, right? They're all wearing aprons. And what are Freemasons called? The widow's sons. They worship female.
Okay, so Steve, you kind of dropped bomb on me because so basically what you're saying, and I get it, I can compartmentalize. I have a really good ability to step outside my own belief structure to analyze what somebody's presenting. I do this all the time. So what I'm going to do is you just hit me up with something that I totally disagreed with on a fundamental level. However, you're not making sense. So basically what you've just told me is that there's a power structure in place that has literally created a buffer zone between me, the public, and them. And this is why I see Brett Weinstein popping up everywhere, Lex Friedman. This is why I see Andrew popping up, the Jewish guy that's got a huge podcast, Patrick David popping up everywhere. This is why anytime financial matters are really disturbing the population, they keep throwing these Jewish bankers, Jewish financiers, Jewish moneylenders, all this stuff gets thrown into the public. You're telling me now that all this massive amount of research people are doing exposing Jews and all kinds of financial all kinds of activities, manipulating the markets, the very fact that Hollywood is all Jewish, the Hollywood writers, all the sports industries are now run by Jews. They own almost all the teams. They run the sporting agency. You can't even be you cannot even be in American competitive sports without going through Jewish filters. Your agents are all Jewish. So what you're telling me, and it does make sense, is that's all this noticing is intended. It's all by design. They are literally a buffer zone between an unseen power structure, and that we're focused. Yes. We're focused on the tools and not the toolbox.
That's like pretty much it, Jason, except there's a nuance to it. are they Jewish or are they Zionist? Because Zionism, like I just said, if 1 out of 12 or 1 out of 30 Zionists are Jews, then that's not Jewish. You know
Well,
what I
okay,
mean? You
okay.
can't
Well, then
call,
now
you
we're
can't
now
call the Harlem Globe.
yeah.
So,
Now it's
but
semantic. Now it's semantic because I just showed a reel last night on YouTube of 100 actors and actresses that are famous. Every single one of them are Jewish. I don't care
right.
which one. I don't care which ones are or not Zionist. You all profited off of a nepotism structure that literally eliminates much of the talent pool in America because you represent 2% of the population, while 98% of the population, where there's even better talent and more beauty, get ignored because you guys are all related to each other. So I really don't care about.
That's right.
I don't care about the distinction between if they're Zionist or not. You all profited from the same structure.
Yeah, and they do put them there. And I'm not saying that there aren't Jews as part of this thing. What I'm saying is they have married in. You know, Jacob Frank, when we look at like where people think all this came from, people don't know that when he Seti and Atenus, so they're worshiping Set, Satan, the addiction to the physical nature, and I'm reincarnating here again. That's why they like to. We're on YouTube. That's why they do the nasty things that we don't even want to talk about that they do.
Yeah.
They're not trying to perfect their spiritual soul or body and get out of here. They want to keep coming back here. They don't care. But
Steve, I believe in
rabbis,
reincarnation. I believe in what you're saying. I believe in reincarnation. I've told my community, but I can even go darker than that. I believe that there are specific rituals that do two different things, and that these are things that are widely misunderstood by the population when they find out these things and they automatically say they're satanic or this. There are two different rituals where they can guarantee that certain souls can be reincarnated back into the same bloodline, which would be Khazarian, Jewish, whatever you want to call them. But there's also another ritual. There's another ritual that if you're not protected and you're very well hated and the people that hate you come together for that ritual, this is why there's so many child sacrifices and all that, because the soul that comes up in that little baby is somebody who just left the construct that these people hate with a vengeance. So they bring them specifically up in here to do that to them. So I'm just saying,
man,
I don't like to go into those type of details, but I agree with you. Reincarnation is a real part of the program here.
It is, and it's a bit of a downer subject, but it is what's going on. And that again gets into this druidic religion. Now, Hollywood is why didn't they name it Goldstein Bernstein Wood? They call it Hollywood, which is the druidic, it's the druidic wand for mind control, casting.
Very good point. Holly is the witch wood.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. So it's druidic. Why would the Jews be using a druidic thing that's not even their religion? It's in your face. Have you ever noticed we all see Obama sitting there on a poster in like black and white looking up in the sky and it says change, or Mao, Chairman Mao? We see these posters, we go propaganda. Then we see all these cartoons of hook-nosed Jews with evil faces who look like dictators. Like, that's not propaganda. And then they show you Israeli TV where everyone's celebrating the Twin Towers coming down. And you're like, oh, you believe their TV is real, but ours is the only fake TV? You don't think they're getting mind controlled too?
Yeah.
We're like, everyone else is mind controlled, but not the Jews. So what I'm saying, like, I stand for Palestine. But I'm telling people to start looking. And by the way, I'm also, anything I said today, don't believe me, right? I'm just giving you stuff to look at. I'm not saying what I'm saying is like right, wrong. I'm just saying here's some stuff.
You're doing fantastic. You're doing fantastic, bro. I love this conversation. It's just you got me. You got me thinking a little outside the box. That's good.
And I'd love to get into the Bible, but I mean that would take 2 more hours. But maybe we should just go a little bit there.
Sure.
But so anyway, what I'm trying to tell people is these people are smart. If you rob a bank, you blame it on someone else, right? When the cops come around, you have an alibi. And that's what they do. And there are lots of these Hof Judas, they call them, they're good at money. That's why they put them there. And at the Knights Templar, they also, when you see Baphomet, the Knights Templar were supposed to be executed because they worship Baphomet. But he's got the 4 elements: fire on his head, the fish gills on his stomach, the wings for air, and he's sitting on earth. And he represents the higher and lower nature. I used to think those were 2 crescent moons. Should I show a picture of Baphomet real quick, or
Oh, I know what you're talking.
do people know?
For them, yeah, go ahead and do it. I know exactly what you're talking about.
But those aren't moons. It turns out the crescent moon is another symbol for Venus, as is the 5-pointed star. So this is how you can start to tell these people. They use brown, green, and yellow, and they use half moon crescents and 5-pointed stars, which you see everywhere. Maybe I have a Baphomet here, maybe I don't. Let's see. He's got. Oh, I think. Hang on. I know where he's at.
Hey.
Oh, by the way, so
you've done something pretty impressive, because I don't go. I've never gone early in the morning on my channel. I'm always late in the afternoon. Listen, you got almost 1,500 people in the chat this early in the day.
Is that right? Okay. Wow, man. Jesus. How you doing, everybody? I hope I'm not boring you all. So anyway, here's these are the alchemical signs for the 4 elements,
right?
And when you put them together, that's where you get the Star of David. That is not Jewish. That was appropriated to modern Jews. See that? It's just the 4 elements put together. So that's not Jewish either. There's a lot of this blame game shit going on. Let me. I think I just got to look Baphomet. Hold on. BAPH. There he is. All right.
That's him.
So see up. So Venus is the morning star, Lucifer, and the pentagram or the 5-pointed star is the symbol for Venus. So he's got as above the morning star, and then it's the evening star as well. And he's got the fish gills in the middle. That's water. He's got fire on his head. He's got air on his wings, and he's sitting on the earth. And he's got the pentagram, the cult of Venus, on his forehead. And he's saying, are you going to be in your higher mind, or are you going to be a slave to your lower nature? This is Druidic. The Knights Templar are what they found. Oh, man, I got to just show you one video, right? So, what we're told, what the Knights Templar went to the Middle East, right? And sacked Jerusalem and all that.
Well, I mean, I don't know about that history. The Knights Templar had become an intelligence agency for the monarchies of Europe. And then they got treacherously dealt with when it was found out how much they were worth. They had whole navies, they had whole fleets. And the papacy and the monarchies conspired together to condemn the Knights Templar. And this is the origin of the pirate ships that flew the Jolly Roger flag, the Skull and Bones. This is the Skull and Bones. You got
it. Yeah, and that's Skull and Bones 322, the Skull and Bones of Yale.
Yes, this is the early
Knights Templar pirate.
This is the early 1300s. And most of them got away. Only 56 or 57 of them were actually tortured to death and all that. But it doesn't matter what information those men gave up under torture. They slow roasted Jacques de Molay. They slow roasted him, and he cursed the Pope and the king. And both of them died recently, pretty fast after that. But they slow roasted him. But all the Templar fleets vanished. And there's a lot of evidence they ended up on Oak Island. They ended up in Ireland. They fought in the Battle of Bannockburn with Bruce against the English. They just came under a different banner because they could no longer publicly come as Templars. But there's evidence that they even went to Central America. Fleets of Templars went everywhere.
Yeah, man. They had a massive navy. They were the pirates. In the Knights Templar, they wear the Cult of Venus outfits. They even wear the what do you call it? They wear like the wool hammocks, like because they were supposed to be eunuchs. They were supposed to be castrated. And they became the Venetians, right? The black nobility. Well, what's Venice? What's Venice? Venus. These are the cult of Venus. This is the Seti and Atlas. They're Venus cult worshippers. That's the Knights Templar became the pirates, became the black nobility, became the Knights of Malta, who are running all the banking. And where did the Knights Templar go after they ran? Switzerland. Where's all the banking and everything in Switzerland, right? Everything's in Switzerland. This is them. That's their big stronghold. So check this out. You're going to like this, man. People love this. I was in a bar in Sweden. There's not supposed to be Knights Templar going on up there. I was in a bar with an old like Tartarian. I went to the toilet downstairs in a Templar dungeon and watched what was on the stairs, man. Can you see that? Get that out of the way. So I'm down in a dungeon of an old thing. And then I start going up. Check this out on the stairs. Bump. Knights Templar. Horseback fighting. What's this? This in Malmo, Sweden.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's what the Templars were known for. They were like the best cavalry around.
Yeah, absolutely. So yeah, anyway, I mean, we're gonna run out of time. I would love to get into the Bible stuff, but because I can show you hands down the entire Bible is Irish, and there is no guy called Noah. So I'm really bad at dates. I know you're a chronologer, and I'm like retarded with dates, you know. And I'm like, 16, whatever.
You still got a good 40, 42, 45 minutes. I'm really impressed that excuse me, you still got another 20, 25 minutes before because I have a chiropractor's appointment, so that's why we were going to stop around 2 hours. But I'm very impressed because I could literally talk for 6 hours nonstop, and my community knows it, just about how the Heliolithic Maritime Empire colonized all these ancient civilizations and brought them civilization, all the links between them. I have never associated these fleets as coming from the British Isles, but I have theorized it before. I've mentioned it in passing without any evidence. But the fleets of the Tuatha De Danann, the Sea Peoples Federation, all three invasions of the Mediterranean, the whole Heliolithic Maritime Empire history that I have documented in Archaix, it makes absolute sense. If we were to say, even the Atlantis narrative makes sense, because from the position of the people that knew the Atlantis story, the people were Amuru. They came from the Western Sea, but where in the Western Sea, they didn't know. And if we're going to connect it to the sinking of an island, we have Phrygia. We have the islands right there where the Faroe Islands are connected to. That could have been the origin of the entire Atlantis story, and it satisfies the data of being beyond the Pillars of Hercules. So
yeah, it certainly is, because I can show you Gilgamesh is not a guy. It's an Irish compound word. It's a name like Sleepy Pillow Comfy, but it's not a real dude. But I can show you hands down. There are over 100 examples in the Indian Rig Vedas of astronomical things that cannot
happen in India. I've talked about that too.
You're on board.
Listen, I've talked about the astronomy of the Book of Enoch happened in the northern hemisphere above the 40th latitude. The astronomy of the Vedas, the Puranas, the Puranic commentaries, it all happened above the 40th parallel. This is Nordic. All these texts show that they are Nordic. I've also told my community, going through the real historians like Thor Heyerdahl, the real Sumerologist like Professor L.A. Waddell, Samuel Noah Kramer, not this modern BS that's promoted in the field today, but real boots on the ground researchers they told us straight out that whoever founded Sumer and all of Sumerian civilization, all of those legends, all of those myths, all those histories came from a different part of the world. Only after a major destruction did fleets arrive into the Tigris-Euphrates and found a civilization and import everything that actually came from somewhere else.
Right, man. Yeah,
I've covered all this. I just never linked it to the British Isles.
When's your I actually wanted to ask you this. Yeah, because I can show you the entire Bible, like Sodom and Gomorrah didn't happen. I used to be like, oh, they found melted glass, and that must be Sodom. These are totally fictional words. They're not cities and stuff. But do you know, have you read any Commons Beaumont?
I haven't read it. I have his material. I have not read it yet.
Dude, you got to read him because he is a catastrophist. However, he's a Bible literalist. And interestingly, he has proven that if the Bible stories were not typology, and what I mean by that for people watching, you know what I mean. The movie Blade Runner came out in 1981. It was based in LA in 2020. So the place is real, but the time was wrong, and there's no flying cars, and there's no people and robots running around. We're close, but
right.
So that's like a mythology. It's based on a real place, but made in the wrong time in the future, and there's no one in it's real. So that's what I'm saying the Bible is. It's provable, as I'll show you with McDarry later. But it doesn't mean that there weren't places and things happening. Just because you can't say there's no guy called Noah and no biblical flood doesn't mean there wasn't a worldwide flood. There clearly was, but there's not a guy called Noah. That has nothing to do with it.
In Archaix, I've documented there's been a few floods that were worldwide.
Oh, tons. Yeah. And this is the one I wanted to show you. So Commons Beaumont, I'll have to open the book. So, you must have talked about the Goldsby stone, right?
No, I have not.
Oh, have you not put that in your data? Okay, you need this one in your data set.
Is that in County Meath, where all the ancient Irish our archaeological sites are?
This one's in Scotland, actually. I've got it here. Okay. So I'll just show you this real quick.
I don't have that one.
There's a book. These guys, sadly, this guy and his wife wrote this book, Star Stones and Scholars. Mm-hmm. And they died very mysteriously after. What he did is he went all around the British Isles and his Collins, and you can't even get this book anymore. I'll send you a link to an online link I have for it. You can't get the book anymore.
I got some pretty good sources, man. Don't count me out.
Oh yeah,
I got some pretty good book sources. They may cost me extra, but
all these ancients, there's these megalithic stones all up Britain. Every single one of them correlates to a constellation up in the sky and to a part in the human body. They mapped out the entire body. It's called the spine of Albion, which is the ancient Irish Gaelic name for Britain.
Right.
And this was the original Mecca trek. That Black Cube's bullshit. We can get into that next time. That's a new rebuild. Everything is here. These guys mapped it out. What they call Hadrian's Wall, that was there thousands of years before. That's right where the Milky Way cuts over England. Yeah. But these guys, they died really mysteriously right after putting that out. But here, I'll just show you the Goldsby stone. And this is in Dunrobin, Scotland right now. Now, I know you're carbon dating's bullshit.
Oh, that's a steel. Yeah, that's a steel. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. So
that's a steel, just like the Sumerian fashion.
Yes, yeah, and those Sumerian ones. Now Commons Beaumont in this book's great, The Great Deception. Hopefully these are in alphabetical order. Where is it? Oh, where are you, Beaumont?
I found that book on Abe Books, ABE Books.
Yeah,
I already ordered $44. I just now ordered it online.
Well, get it, man. Yeah, get it. Hold on.
I do this all the time with my guests. They give me a good source book. It's wrap. I'm buying it.
Beaumont, where is it?
All right, let's see.
Why can I not find it? Hold on. What am I doing? Should be there.
All right.
Well. Where's Commons Beaumont? Here it is. There it is. The Great Deception. All right.
I'll be getting that Thursday.
So what Beaumont, he wrote like 6 books on Atlantis and the destruction. He's shown that all of the places allegedly in the Bible and all the old Iliad and Homer and all that, he's showing that they couldn't possibly have been in the Middle East just geographically. And Anna Wilkes did the same in Ireland, the Ur of Chaldee. But this is really interesting. So let me blow this up. Can you see that all right?
Yes, I can.
Oh, shit. I don't want it side by side. Single page. Here we go. Okay. So they found this stone, and he calls it the flood of Noah, which I don't like because there's no such guy called Noah, but the great flood he's talking about. And what it had is it was a stele with astrological depictions pinpointing a time and place. In other words, it drew the heavens in a way where they would only be at a certain place. And they think it's 3,200 years old, and it's got the square of heaven, and then it's got there's Cetus, people who know their astronomy up. This is all in the northern constellation.
Yeah, that's a circumpolar whale.
You've got it. Yeah, Cetus is right up there in the middle. And then it's got Taurus, Orion, Pisces, Aquarius. So it's showing where all this stuff was. And he's saying that this was the catastrophe that stopped the Tixos, the original Tixos and the Scythians. They had to leave the British Isles because it got wiped out by this plasma reset. He's into like what people call the plasma apocalypse. So later they come back, the Gauls who come back. The people of Ireland now are not these people who left. They all had to fuck off and get out of there. Now, what they did is they took an astronomy program, and I know you would say, well, this could be off because it's not 306, right? It was 360 days.
Right.
And they would be saying they would probably be counting 365.
But it wouldn't,
but anyway,
that change wouldn't be much between 1350 BC and 713 BC. We could adjust that by 5.25 days a year, and we could get a more approximate, a closer. So he's probably dead on the money. We just have to adjust the numbers a little bit to comport with the fact that the year became 365 days in 713 BC. So it's very easy to go back to 1350 BC and just eliminate 5.24 days.
Oh, right. Yeah. So, yeah, well, that was, they could only get the program back to 1350 because at the time they ran it, they hadn't hit the 46th degree yet modern. So he's putting I would think this is the Ogesian flood, but he's putting it at BC 1322. What does your Phoenix chronology say for the 1360?
Well, it's not just Phoenix. There's also a Nemesis X deal at that period. I'm about to show you right now. I'm going to share my screen.
Yeah, let me hold on. Yeah, let me. I was interested if he's close to your dates. I thought that was a data point you might be able to use.
Yeah, it's very close. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen.
Yeah, let me stop mine. Yeah, go for yours. Yeah. I just thought you would like that. I thought you knew about that stone. Like he's saying that was they'd said like shit, when the sky gets like this, get out of here. Like this is what wiped us out.
Yeah, I can definitely agree. It's a pretty compelling date, but
I'll send you that book too.
So,
oh yeah, can you blow it up?
Absolutely. I'm looking for the right part. So here's the period in history that we're talking about here.
Right.
In between,
so you got 1123.
In between 1411 BC and 1273 BC. This is a 138-year period right here. So this is probably exactly because it's probably, once we eliminate 5.25 days for every year from 1322 going back to 713, this event right here is what changed the year. This is the whole subject matter of Immanuel Velikovsky's research. What happened in
and where do you put that at on yours? Where is that at? What year is that?
That's 713.
713. Okay.
When the year changed, and when all the nations of the world had a problem, because for about a 4-month period of time, the moon literally stopped moving. It almost like it died, and they couldn't do the moon counts, and they had to readapt all their lunar calendars. And a lot of civilizations at this time lost faith in the moon, and they started calculating by the sun now. Once they realized the sun had adopted a new path, and the new path across the sky, because it was a different path covering different constellations now. So when this happened, they started paying attention and said, well, wait, we don't have a 360-day year anymore. Every civilization in the world changed their calendar to 365 days, but it took about a century for everybody to catch up. It's not something that's noticeable until certain stars on their heliacal rising are no longer rising at the monoliths in the dolmens and the tablestones that they have been known to rise at for thousands of years. Once they realized something was wrong and the seasons were rolling back, it took about a century before they could add an extra 5.24 days. But the event he's talking about would have definitely been, these were huge back-to-back destructions. 1273 and 1135, these were massive. 1135 was the worst. This is your Atlantis dating. This is also the dating that the Tuatha De Danann invaded and fought the Firbolgs for the possession of Ireland in the Second Battle of Moytura. This is the date, 1135, when the Phoenix darkened the sun. It was the sun darkening that scared the Firbolgs, because the Danann had literally the Daemon priests came out onto the shore and were acting like they were doing a ritual, but really they were astronomers and they already knew the sun was about to darken. So they used the phenomenon of the phoenix darkening the sun and acted like they did it, and it terrified the Furbolgs, and the Daemon won the war for the possession of Ireland.
Right. Danon is also an Irish Galga name, all the Scandinavian gods. That's another next time we can get into that. But yeah, that's fascinating. So he's pretty close to, I mean, he's 100 years off, but you know,
he wouldn't even really be 100 years off once we make the intercalary correction of removing those 5.24 days before 713 BC. He's probably dead on the money.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, man. I mean, so I know you only wanted to go 2 hours. We're coming up 5 to go. I'd love if you want to have me back to get into the Bible and show you, you know, and Noah begot so-and-so, all these genealogies. They purposely have 7 of them to show you the 7 reincarnations without sex you're supposed to have to perfect your solar body. And their ages always add up to 930, 920, 1,000, 1,020. It's cryptic writing. These aren't real people. They're trying to show you this spiritual progression in cryptic terms. And we can go through and I can show you every Bible character from the Old Testament Torah. They're not real. Every place, no real than your, you know, flying pillow monster is a guy like, and I can show you the Irish roots and origins and how every single story is talking about spirit awesome. Incarnated in the man.
You're not going to get any argument out of me. That's an awesome study.
Yeah.
I've long told my community that many of the pronouns in the book of Genesis are descriptive of historical things that were going on at that period of time. Like Adam was turned into a pronoun, but it literally means Adamu in the Babylonian cuneiform. Adamu is mankind, and Noah was a calendar reference. It means the 600, and it was and just like Genesis says that in the 600th year the great flood happened when Noah was 600 years old. But the ancient system of measurement back during that time period was the Yuga. And the Yuga was 216,000 days, turnings of the stars. 216,000 days is exactly 600 years. So in the Sumerian, it's called a Ner. And I got so much material on the Ner. Even a book from 1833 written by a guy in Ireland goes into the detail about how Noah was just a calendar, and that there wasn't an ark. It was an entire fleet of arks that were having to change homelands because in the Great Flood disaster, which was a lot more than just flooding, they had to relocate because their home world, which would have been in the Western Hemisphere, which is, I've always told my community, the Western Hemisphere emptied after a cataclysm and filled up what we call the Old World. And the Old World isn't even the Old World, it's the New World. But we've got it completely backwards. The oldest records
Absolutely.
that we have, the oldest records that we have show that the Western Hemisphere emptied into the East, which we call Europe, Asia, Africa. That's the Old World according to our historical models, but in truth, it's the New World.
Yeah, and that's fascinating. I'd love to get into it next time because Noah is actually 9, and the ark is the womb, and it's the 9 months, and then it's the spirit coming into physical carnation and the sin. So it would be lovely to sit and talk about that. We can't. I wanted to do it tonight, but that's like 2 hours, dude.
So if you
want to have me back another time, man, I know you got to go get chiropractic.
Absolutely, I got Ralph Ellis. I got coming back. I got several people coming back. But I got people I got to contact.
Hey, how are you feeling after Eileen? How'd you feel after Eileen McCusack did the tuning on you? I was going to ask how your follow-up was.
Well, I mean, I really don't know. I really like her. I really like her, and she's more than welcome to come back to the channel too. I don't really know how good that stuff really works through the computer. I just don't know. But I didn't feel bad, but I thought it was very interesting.
Yeah.
I'm all about resonance and frequencies. I mean, we live in a frequency-based reality. So yeah, she was my community loved her. There's no doubt. So she's definitely welcome.
Yeah, she's a good friend of mine, man. She dinged me. I had her on my show, and she hit me with the 144 fork, and I was having I had some real bad stress for about 6 months, and it finally had just resolved, but I hadn't let it go. And as soon as she hit that fork, I was like, I did not like that, you know. And, she was like, man, what's wrong with you? I was like, exactly. But you know, she dinged it a couple more and it worked. It does work. We are a frequency.
Yep, absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah, just get with Big John. Send Big John an email. I got to get man, I got to reconnect with several people that have been on the channel that I told them I would connect with. I've just been so busy, but now my schedule's freed up a whole lot recently. And yeah, I just need to get with several people. And yeah, you're definitely one of them.
Yeah.
We can come back on.
And you're right, Adam
back on within a week. Well, you know, if you want to schedule within a week, just Big John does my schedule and it appears on my desktop, so I know what I'm doing every day. So I'm
man. Yeah.
I'm moving in a lot of directions, man. I'm always hungry.
Yeah, you're busy, man. Yeah, I'd love to get into that. I can show you. Adam you're correct. It's an Irish hybrid word for man and woman. Wow. So God in the Bible says, I created them in my image, but you're like, I thought you created Adam first and not Eve, and then she's the rib, and I can show you what the Irish rib is. I can take you through all their children, what their names really mean, and how this is the spirit advancing through reincarnations and cycles, not people. And I can show you what Eden is an Irish word, a compound word for the body. It means spirit come into the Garden of Eden, the body. So once you get into this and you can read, that's what I'm saying. Once you have the Galga, you've got the keys to the Ferrari. You're like, oh, and Connor McDarry was talking about this too. There was an article in 1920 somewhere in Ireland where the village was still speaking Gaeilge or some form of it. Like a Bible society came in, was trying to pass out English Bibles to the Irish village, and they preferred the Hebrew one because they could read it. Wow. And that's what I'm saying. Hebrew is Irish, so they didn't want the English. They were like, oh,
that's a very compelling argument for the Welsh. That is. So it's Ralph Ellis. Definitely like to have you back, Ralph Ellis. Definitely. I feel bad, but I did warn him that I was so overwhelmed and busy during December and early January. But I definitely need to get back in touch with John Lamb Lash. I've had him on the channel.
Oh yeah,
he kind of blew my mind on some stuff. Like, wow, man, I was kind of intimidated at first about even having him on my channel. But yeah, I got to get back with John Lash as well and see what he was wanting to do.
I've got his book, Not in His Image. I've got his book. It's great.
Listen, man,
speaking of books, can I plug mine? I'm a children's book author, by the way.
Hell yeah.
I've got 2 books out. I've been busy. Yeah. I've got The Dukes of Dents and the Goon's Laser Balloons. This teaches kids about Agenda 21, the lasering the towns, Paradise and Maui and stuff. So this is about the goons who come to laser the Toons land and steal it so they can steal all their wine plums and stuff. And the Dukes of Dents is about like 2 guys who run the whole town and how they scam them with all the rules and, kind of how they run the place. So you can get them on all Amazon platforms if anyone's looking for some more awake children's book for homeschooling or your kids or whatever.
Yeah.
So I had to get a plug in there, man.
Hey, do me a favor. Author, but as soon as we get off this video, do me a favor and email the links to ordering those books to Big John.
Oh, great. Yeah.
They'll be put in the description box.
Oh, awesome, man. Yeah, thanks, man. That would be lovely. Yeah, I'll send you some too for your collection. For having me on, man. I appreciate it.
Yeah, man. This has been
My
great.
Publisher would kill me.
So I would love to explore what you're talking about, the Old Testament. I want to hear the variant version. I know my Bible very well. I do not believe that most of it is history, as I've told my community. As a matter of fact, you could remove the entire Old Testament biblical narrative away from Archaix, and it doesn't affect the Archaix chronology one single bit. I've used it where it complements, but it's just got a lot of distortions in it that were added by somebody else, and some of these events just didn't happen, and some of them did happen, but the participants have been changed. So, I'm eager to hear what you got to say, but I'm really wanting.
I'll show you too, because I've highlighted all the important parts, so we can. It's only 70 pages, so we don't have to do it all. Like I've highlighted, so it's better when people see it, so I can show the Irish breakdowns, because Galga is not pronounced how it looks. So I can show like
No.
what these were, when you Gilgamesh, I can show you what each of those syllables mean and how, and then you start to show his adventure. Go, oh, okay, I see this is this story.
So
And you'll see what.
I have one parting deal that is so confirmatory to what you've been presenting to me. I wanted to save it last. I want to close the video with this, but it's mind
Yeah, go
blowing.
for it, man.
It's
Love to see it.
mind-blowing.
Yeah, tell me.
So my community knows that I have documented and shown the sources. I've shown the calendrics. There's so much data showing that there were 2 great floods back to back, separated by 552 years, which is a phoenix cycle. And the immense amount of data sets that show both of these independent events and how these independent events were well known in the historical record. But one of these events has always bothered me. I know it happened. I can document it happened, but it's always bothered me because even the ancient historians viewed the event as a transplant. It's called the Ogygian deluge. It happened in the month of May of 1687 BC, and it completely collapsed the entire old Bronze Age world. The reason why it's always been a mystery is because the records I have are the Proto-Greek, the Mycenaean, Minoan, Egyptian, the ancient Syrian, Middle Eastern cultures, all. Then later Romans, like Marcus Varro, they were copying earlier Phoenician writers. Everybody remembers the Ogygian deluge, remembers when it was and what happened. There are scholars like W.J. Perry in 1922 who wrote a 500-page book about the Ogygian deluge. Everybody remembers it. But what F's me up, and I've never really been able to answer for, is why is a worldwide flood that's very well documented in that part of the world named after ancient Ireland? Ogygia. So
I think it's I have a book called the Oralindi. Is that the Ogygian flood in the Oralindi? I don't know if I pronounced that right.
I don't think it. No, I'm not really sure. I do have some excursions into the Dutch Oralind manuscript, but I don't know.
But
if
it's not Dutch. It's actually Irish too. I can trace that back to Irish and Scandinavian. So it's I can go into the gods too, like all the Egyptian and the Roman and Greek gods. Those are Irish names. Thor.
I don't doubt it. I don't doubt it. That's the title, the Dutch Oralind manuscript. Yeah. I don't
this is probably why, because that flood myth is probably coming from up here, and because all of the history, they've lied and put it in the Middle East where it wasn't. Those people were running around in diapers till 100 years ago. And I can show you next time. I can show you pictures of Baalbek and all these places. Oh, look at this. And they're not there 100 years ago. It's just a pile of dirt. They built them. Yeah, like they've been building this shit. It's crazy, man. But for next time, if you want, we can do an even more mind-blowing show than this one.
Yeah, that's it. I'm now wondering if, we're all, the whole Heliolithic maritime empire that I have documented, we're talking about the same thing from opposite ends of the spectrum. I don't have the knowledge on Irish antiquities to link them, but I have all the historical events as where they happened in those parts of the world that shows that there were foreign Atlantic invaders that came. They had to come from somewhere. So all roads do seem to be going toward the British Isles and Ireland. But yeah, that sums up our show for today. And definitely, hey, within a week, we can come back and we can continue on. But eventually I want to cover all the naval invasions and all the ancient myths for civilizations around the world that all had the same denominators, which is a bearded Caucasian showed up with a fleet of ships, brought civilization, and when he left, he promised to return. And this is the origin of many religions all around the world.
And he brought sun worship, which is Yesu Krios.
Yes, he brought sun worship. Yes.
They brought the same religion. Yeah, it's these guys. But yeah, thanks for having me on. And thanks to Big John. And again, thanks to all your it's your subs, I guess, who requested me. Like I'm honored that they wanted to hear what I had to say. So yeah, let's leave a cliffhanger for the Irish stuff next time, and we'll debunk the Bible.
Yeah, man. It's crazy. All right, bro. Send that email to Big John so I can post those links in my description box.
All right. Thanks so much, Jason. Great, man. Have a great one. Good luck at the chiropractor.
Yeah, later. Steve Falconer's a great guy. Great energy. But we could have went 3 or 4 hours. I can tell he can pull it off. You guys know I can. Today I'm going to the chiropractor in Conroe, and it's already set up. So we'll definitely have him back on very soon to continue this dialogue. Maybe we'll have Michael Desarion on to fill in some of the blanks. As you guys know, man, it's just my chronological information, I'm willing to defend it to a T and show everybody's sources, calculator, and all that. But I'm often telling you guys that just because we have the skeleton that is provided to us by ancient calendrical systems doesn't mean that we actually know what happened on these significant years, especially when calendars collide, which I've showed you over and over. Major events happen on these special years when calendars actually sync. So maybe ancient Ireland can fill the details in. This is another rabbit hole. This is another direction Archaix can go in. And it's just another piece of evidence that letting go of so many things in the past 2 or 3 months has actually opened some amazing doors. And it's not about me. It's not about them. It's about what the hell are we going to learn about this situation that we are in right now, this construct. Because if we don't know where we've come from, we're never going to figure out where we're going. But I got to go, and I got to go to the bathroom. And I love you guys, and I am going to play this outro, and I'll holler at you later.